Hi everybody, it's Christian. I hope you're well. I'm super excited to show you this new change to my template and to the way that I'm running tracks in worship. For quite a while now, I've been running Ableton Live, and this is probably the best single edition that I've ever made to it. I run some tracks from start to finish as single WAV files, and I also run some that are broken down, a bit like the Worth It All example that you can see on the screen now. Up until now, I've been using Ableton's follow actions to progress down through that arrangement, and I've mapped MIDI buttons to any of these sections so that I can instantly jump to chorus, verse, whatever it might be, so that I can arrange on the fly. The frustrations with that has been that I've had to press the button for that section within the last measure, so in the bar leading into it, and also then that I've had an issue with the cues of either being wrong or just turning off the cues, or it says the cues quickly into the band's ears and then they have to follow the rest of the song with no music cue. And also that I've had to use up a lot of buttons on my soft step to be able to do that, because I've needed a chorus, verse, bridge, refrain, whatever it might be, for every single song. So I'm constantly turning pages at the end of each song to move into different banks. So what I wanted to be able to do was arrange on the fly and get down to a single button and also still have dynamic cues. And this is what I've been able to do. So let me demo it to you first, and then I will go and explain how I've made it work. So this is Worth It All. Let me jump into the arrangement for Worth It All. So left to its own devices, it's still going to progress down through the arrangement, through the sections as explained. So at the end of this intro, we move to verse, and it triggers down to verse, and it continues. Let me just get to this message. Okay, so that's going to work exactly the same. Let me jump down to this verse 2. Okay, now let's say during this verse 2, I decide that I want to do verse 2 again. So what I'm going to do on my soft step controller, which is now appearing on the screen, I'm going to press this repeat button. The repeat button is going to flash red, and at the end of the verse, it's going to repeat the verse again. Let's just wait for that to happen. But also the cues are going to change, and it's going to tell me that we're going back to the verse.
Verse 2, 3,
and we go back to the verse. It jumps back, and we're back in the verse. Now I press this button again, and when I press this button this time, the button goes green, and that means that we're going to move on in our arrangement. So we'll just wait till the end of the verse, and it will move on to the tag and then the chorus. And we'll go back to our old vocal cues.
Tag.
So there we go, tag telling us to move on. We'll just step in a short tag, and then we're going to jump into the chorus. Okay, now again, we're in the chorus, we're singing the chorus, it's going well, and at any point within the chorus, I decide I want to do the chorus again, I'm going to press the repeat button. I'm not waiting for the last measure, I'm pressing it at any point in the chorus. The red light's flashing, so I know it's going to repeat that section, and also we're going to get a dynamic cue change for chorus, not for refrain.
Chorus 2,
and we're back into the chorus
3,
again.
4.
Now at the end of this chorus section, I want to move on with the song, so anytime this measure, I'm going to press the button. The button's going to go green, and when the button goes green, it means we're going to move on with our arrangement. So let me just show you that one. So we'll just wait for the end of the chorus, and we'll be back to our original vocal cue and moving on to the refrain. Okay, I can still use the other buttons on my MIDI controller to be mapped to intro verse for this specific song, but this repeat button is going to work with any song that I use. So any song that I use is broken down into sections, this repeat button is going to work. So let me show you how I did it. The first thing I did was to upgrade my Ableton Live, so I went and got Ableton Suite. So you can either do this, or you can just get the Max for Live edition, but you're going to need Max for Live to run a plugin from Istonik Studios called Follow Actions. And Follow Actions lives in my cue track here. So if I double click into there, this is the Follow Actions plugin. What Follow Actions does is it follows my guide track, my normal guide track. So if I double click my guide track, you can see that I've copied and pasted the same guide track through all of my scenes, but I've set a start and end of exactly the same number of bars, exactly the number of bars that I want it to. And in the multi-track, where this track is, I've gone into each section, piano, tambourine, loop, all the rest of it, and I've set a start and an end for every section, which, okay, took a few minutes, but once it's done, it's done. For every section of the song, I put a start and an end. Okay, so what Follow Action does, let me just go back to cue track only and back to follow action. Follow action follows that audio line, so it's not a follow-on action in Ableton's traditional sense. It waits to the end of that audio line and then triggers either the next scene or the next clip. I've got it programmed to scene, and it triggers the scene at the end of the clip. And I've got all of these actions. I can have again, previous, next, first, last, and I can do them one of two ways. I can either program them inside the envelope, so if we click into guide, inside the envelope here I've got all of these follow actions, which I can set. So I can tell it at the end of this clip to always move on or jump back to the first one or to play a certain number. Or the way that I'm using it the majority of the time is I'm using a foot switch control. And this foot switch control, when pressed on, will be next. So it goes on to the next arrangement. That's when the green light is on. Or when the foot switch is off and the red light is flashing, it's going to do again and it's going to repeat. I've MIDI mapped that button on my soft step to this soft control here on the follow actions, and I've actually done it a slightly different way. Instead of using a MIDI note, I've used it as a CC control code, and I'll tell you why. What I've then done is I've also mapped the CC control code to my cue tracks volume fader here and my repeat cue tracks volume fader here. So I'm going to press that button now and watch what happens. You should see a change on this fader, a change on this fader, and a change here on follow action. So when I press repeat, there we go. I've gone to again, the red light is flashing, the volume on cue tracks has dropped to minus infinity, and the volume on repeat tracks has gone up to 0. So now you're going to hear the cue tracks that are in here. So at the end of the intro, I simply built a cue track that says intro 2, 3, 4, and I've left my normal guide track there. When I want to go on, let's go back to the follow action, and I press my repeat button again. When I press it, this changes to next, this fader jumps up, this fader jumps down. So this single button can control whether I repeat a section or I move on throughout the whole of my Ableton set. And what I'm simply doing now is I'm dragging up my set list into this top box here, which I will making up a set for the moment for Sunday, and copy from my database. And I can set various follow-on actions, so I could click into this cue track, into my follow-on actions and say, click into this cue track, and in the envelope I could tell it to cue next scene or move straight on to the next scene. So I could bunch up the gaps, and then by having no gap there, when it finishes one song it would play exactly the next song, or it would cue it up ready for me to press play. And again, if the songs are broken down into sections like this Worth It All song is, which I'm demoing at the moment, one button will control all of it. So really easy to do. Really, really great, and I've got it down to simply one button now for arranging on the fly. I'm not having to change loads of patches, and I've got dynamic vocal cues. I hope that makes sense. I really recommend you check out this plugin. So the plugin is a Max for Live device called Follow from Istonik Studios here in the UK. You need Max for Live to run it, but the two together and a little bit of programming really now has given me the exact Ableton set that I want. I can go one stage further. It has this amazing floating window, so if I open, and let's put that in at 300% and open it, I've got a floating window. I could drag this onto a separate monitor, or I can simply put it on screen and if I hit lock here underneath, lock it in place. And now when I press the repeat button, I've got a really big again and a really big next, and when it's playing,
Worth It All in E.
you can actually see the current section and the next section, and it counts down a number of bars or a number of measures or beats actually in the clip, so I can see how many beats are left. I could drag that onto a separate monitor and put that in front of stage for the band to see, or have it on the laptop if the laptop's in my eyesight. Again, press the repeat button and it jumps to again, changes the faders, and it tells me that it's going to do verse again because it's currently on verse and the next session will be verse. Change my mind and press the button, it jumps back to next, and the next section here is tag. So follow-on actions by Istonik, dynamic cues, and I've got pretty much the perfect Ableton setup that I want for being able to arrange on the fly. I can still jump between in and out sections as explained, but most of all I can go back and repeat sections when I want to with one single button. Hope that helps. If it stirs up any questions, get in touch. If the programming side of it is a little bit too complex, I'm more than happy to help. Check out my training or get in touch and we can work out something to also give you the template that you want to maximize the way you use Ableton Live in worship. Take care and God bless.